Peace. I forgot to share with you something that I was intending to share with you about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe. A news that became pretty popular in Turkey, controversial. It was published in April 19, 2012, about how many weeks ago? About two, 3 weeks ago. And this is the printout of the news from one of the newspaper, Hurriyet. You see a camel's head, and the Hurriyet, this is the newspaper. This is, of course, it's Turkish. What it says, Umre'de deve idrarı içen iki Türk hastanelik oldu. Two Turkish people who drank camel's milk, I'm sorry, not milk, the urine, they were hospitalized and they were in critical condition. What happens, these people who go to visitation of Mecca is a group under the leadership of an imam. You know, Turkey is a secular country, but it is a strange secular country. They have also government-run department which is called Religious Affairs, Diyanet İşleri Başkanlığı. I don't know exactly how they officially translate, but it is Religious Affairs, the center or the presidency of Religious Affairs. It has hundreds of thousands of employees, imams, muezzins, and those who clean up the mosques and all those things. It has great budget. In fact, this budget has ballooned recently. You know, all the mosques, tens of thousands of mosques, their bills, electricity, water, and maintenance of these mosques, repair of these mosques, all kind of supervised and some supported by this. Also, they publish many books, and unfortunately, these hadith books. One of these imams who belong to this religious affairs department leads to these people to drink camel's milk and urine. Why? Because it is according to hadith. Which hadith? A Sahih hadith. Which Sahih hadith book? Bukhari, you guessed. Bukhari is the biggest idol, one of the 6 idols is hadith. You know, hadith is one of the idols associated to the Quran as source of religion. Besides Sunna, which is unfortunately Sunnatullah, God's law, is being distorted as Sunnat Muhammad. And also Ijma means the basically consensus of so-called religious scholar of the same sect. And these are idols. And the first idol, which is hadith, has 6 divided idols. One of them, Bukhari, is the biggest idol. And Bukhari, there is hadith. We are aware of that hadith long time ago. In fact, that hadith has other major problems. One is supposedly Prophet Muhammad suggesting some sick people in order to be cured, because they come to Medina and the weather supposedly make them sick, and then tells them, advises them to go out and to the mountain, and he has shepherds and camels, asks them to drink the milk and urine of the camel. And supposedly they do, and they get sick, they get angry with the Prophet Muhammad, they kill the shepherds, and supposedly according to that hadith, Prophet Muhammad goes there with his people and then arrests them and then chops their hands and legs and then gouges their eyes with hot nail. That's the hadith. Urine and Uqayla. If you put these words on Google, hadith, Urine, U-R-A-Y-N-A or E, Urine, Uqayla, U-K-A-Y-L-A, tribes. From these 2 tribes, supposedly these people come. Interestingly, these people, Turkish people who went to Medina, they got sick too by following this hadith. Somehow this hadith is not much followed. They say Sunnah Muhammad, they go to Padi, they follow these hadiths, and they do a lot of things. They beat their girls, daughters, they put them under a sack, they follow hadith, they leave their beard like Jews and they call it hadith, or like Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, they had beard too. Muhammad had beard too, like those people. He didn't come to fight over hair with those people. It was not his message. His message was not to create a new fashion, but as they betrayed the message of the Quran, the liberating, peaceful, progressive message of the Quran, they created trivial, stupid rules, all kind of rules, and here it is. They end up with medieval Arab culture, plus this kind of, unfortunately, terrible advice. Now, I want to share with you this hadith because what happened after this one, this became a major news. People who are saying, Sunni, we need to follow hadith because following Prophet Muhammad is... The Quran doesn't say really following Muhammad. Always say follow the messenger. Messenger who brought the message, because he got the message. Through that person we get the message, and he's trustworthy. God will punish him if he deviates, if he distorts the message, or he mixes with his own hava. The Quran, the very Quran says, will punish you if you follow their desire and do some changes in this message. Therefore, messenger, وَمَا عَلَى الرَّسُولِ إِلَّا الْبَلَاغِ, up to the messenger is only to deliver the message. Therefore, when God says obey the messenger, means obey the message. Therefore, message is God's message. In that regard, you cannot discriminate between God and the messenger. Messenger is not a human anymore. It is a vessel, a medium, exactly through God's control, delivering the message. Therefore, God says, do not discriminate between God and messenger. Those who want, they are the hypocrites, they are the disbelievers. Exactly, they say. God means Quran, they separate Quran. Messenger means hadith, which is what? They were not gathered during the time of Prophet Muhammad historically, not during the time of the four caliphs or leaders, elected leaders, neither during the time of Umayyad and Abbasi. They couldn't dare to make this as a literature, as a book besides the Quran, because there were common knowledge of monotheists, though there were some oppressive tyrants came during Umayyad and Abbas time. Still, many people, they were monotheists. They never accepted hadith as another source besides the Quran. They knew that the messenger left them Quran alone, like chapter 6, verse 19, many other verses. And therefore, but it took about 200 some years later, 300 years later, they came up, Bukhari and others tried to put together these false, fabricated stories. And this is one of my booklets, which I didn't publish it, but I distributed in Tucson while I was a student 20 years ago at the University of Arizona. In one of the classes, it was about Islamic studies we had, 400 level class. In that one we discussed, I don't want to go to detail of the stories about Bukhari stuff. I thought that the professor was pretty benign. He's about hadith. He didn't really tell the truth regarding the real nature of hadith. He was picking and choosing some nice words in hadith, which Satan put some candies inside the poison in order to lure simple people. Commonsensical, like Chinese proverbs. You can find in many other books. But in order to sell these harmful teachings that make people stupid, polytheists, oppressive, and sinful, and many things that, in order to sell them, there is some good stuff over there, which is common sense. And he was just picking them and sharing with the students. It was in Amphi, huge, about 100 students, mostly Americans, but there were few from Middle East. I was one of them, and there were, interestingly, from Bangladesh, a student who is also the president of the Muslim student organization. And then I raised my hand in the class. I say, Professor Wilson, he knew me, we knew each other. And I said, what are you doing? Why you are picking the candies from that bowl of poison, and you are misrepresenting the hadith? Say this one, that's okay. And also tell us the other hadith, which is really one of the major reason in the factor in the backwardness and oppression and human rights violation that's so rampant and endemic in the Muslim world. Why you are not kind of mentioning those? Perhaps he wants to get along with everyone, and unfortunately, like many universities, they get a lot of donations and money from Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states. Hadith, one of the idols, they don't want anyone criticized. I think this guy, like many others, they want to tread in between, not to kind of make their donors angry. And also there was some so-called Muslim Sunni students and didn't want any controversy. And this is not really real scholarship. Scholars should be independent and brave. And unfortunately, this is my experience. Even in the United States, many scholars, they either they are paid by the United States government, they are not honest regarding what the US government does throughout history. Just look at history, almost every country, many countries, with any country with some resources, they are bombed by the United States. Hello? What kind of intellectual you are? You should be the one ahead and telling people, American people, that this country of yours is hijacked by war profiteers, by the so-called military-industrial complex. You need to warn your people, inform your people as an intellectual. But American professors mostly, they are thinking, those who are in position of talking, they are already bought out by CIA and other government institutions. Instead of telling the truth, they just distort. And similarly, in near-instant studies and stuff, you see many of them purchased by corrupt Saudi regimes and Kuwait and Qatar and all these kind of things. They donate a lot of money, but there are strings attached, means you lose your independence. And therefore, they will never ever hire me. They never. In the past, I applied to some of the positions first to be professor in some of these universities when there were positions open. I know that I know almost all the languages, in fact, in Middle East. I have written extensively scholarly work and also some popular work. I can teach many of the professors who are teaching in those universities, but they could never able to have me there because I'm an independent thinking person with mind and heart of my own. They cannot purchase me, they cannot make me just hush and follow whatever they want. Kind of, I am loose cannon, thank God. Loose cannon, according to them. I'm not loose cannon according to the truth which I believe, honesty, but honest people according to these people, unfortunately it is. And this is then when I objected this one, this person, his name was what? Muhammad Rashid, his name was, from Bangladesh. He was a very kind of nice guy, had good beard, handsome, well-spoken, and he was studying computer sciences. But I have seen many people who studied engineering, mathematics, sciences. They are very smart, reasoned, and scientific methodology they follow. But when it comes to religion, whether Christianity, Islam, or Hinduism, they are in different universe. They talk stupid. They can just swim in the ocean of contradictions. They will not see the contradictions, the problems. And I hope that I will be able myself to see my own contradictions. Therefore, each time I need to evaluate what I accepted as metaphysical truths. It is very important that be aware of our own desires that we make up in the name of God. Now, this person denied. I listed some hadiths from Bukhari and a few other so-called Kutub al-Sitta. Says, no, these are not in those books. Okay, I said, here is promise for you. Next week, I will find those hadiths and I will hang it to the wall. And then I did it exactly. I went to the library. That time we didn't have much internet. It was early 1990s. There was a whole translation of Bukhari. I got some of those hadiths from Bukhari, and I copied, I hang it on the auditorium's wall from entrance. When you enter, you would see on the wall, just parading there. And sure, students, when came to the class next week, it was about 3-hour class, and then they saw. And then he wrote, suppose they tried to defend them, it was much sillier. Basically, he incriminated himself, even much worse. Then I put together these hadiths, and then his defense of these hadiths, and then I distributed this to the students. In that one here, this is one of the hadiths. Evil omen is in 3 things. A house, an animal, and a woman. Supposedly there is another hadith which is and says there are these according to polytheists, Meccan polytheists. Well, here doesn't say that. Therefore, it shows how people can forget the beginning of hadith and very crucial part of it. But anyway, you can pass this one. You can say, well, there is another hadith explaining it. Fantastic. But what about dogs and pictures? Beware. If dogs and pictures found in a house, no angels can enter. Of course, the angel of death will not enter. If you want to live forever, have a dog or picture in your home. But a big lie. In fact, the Quran says the opposite. In fact, dogs are loyal friends of humans. And like the story of people of the cave or people of numbers, Ashab al-Raqim, which is related to numbers, very interesting things there. It is not just that story, it's related to numbers, and it is part of the prophecy of the Quran, and will come to happen in the future. And I have some signs, I have some understanding, but it's not complete. In that one, you see dog is one of these sleepers that got monotheists, a group of young monotheists who escaped from the tyranny of Trinitarian Christians, because after Nicene Conference 325, Tertullian, one of the bigots who led the Nicene Conference, they became very cruel against monotheist Christians. They killed them, they hushed them, and then they even banned those Gospels who contradicted their Gospels. They reduced it to 4 from hundreds. And therefore, in that time, the Quran says a group of monotheists, they escaped from the oppression of these polytheistic Christians. Here, another hadith from Bukhari. Oh, by the way, the first page I want to show you what it is about. This is the translation of hadith, and there are kind of major big names, and there are professors from here and there, Medina University, Azhar University, and the whole list of the translators. Impressive names, but ignorant people unfortunately believe in all this nonsense. When it comes to religion, they become very ignorant, and unfortunately. Okay, this one that Muhammad Amin al-Misri, PhD, Cambridge University, he's the advisor. And these are the topics, trivial issues, some very important issues, but distortions. Basically, these hadith books are the work of Satan, devil, to distort the message of the Quran, to bring back the teachings of the day of ignorance, means the polytheistic, ignorant, superstitious, oppressive, and terrible male chauvinist, misogynistic teaching of Mecca. They got a lot of borrowing from Jewish stories, from Christianity, and a lot from medieval Arab culture, and they replaced the Quran. Therefore, centuries later, when this hadith became more accepted and more accepted, by the year 1000, that's it. Muslims lost their interest in philosophy, in sciences, which was once they were number one. And they followed Ghazali and people, storytellers. They start considering philosophers, scientists as heretics. And still continues, unfortunately, the regression of Muslim world. Look around. Look at what we have in terms of science, critical thinking, nothing. human rights. Once we were number one. Now, we just, when they get power, these religious people will follow this. They create hell on earth. Look at Taliban in Afghanistan, in Iran. In fact, if they get more power, it will be much, much worse because there's so much people reaction. And in Saudi Arabia, you see, it is another hell. And therefore, the more they, may God not give them any chance and power. They become pharaohs. Each of these followers of Hadith become pharaohs on earth. And this one here, the saliva of one of us, these shameless people, so-called scholars, once a year they come together, luxurious conferences supported by these corrupt thief kingdoms. They call it Sunnat Tibbi Nabavi, the medicine of prophethood, prophets, medical advices, whatever. Supposedly they find miracles. All these nonsense, a bunch of nonsense. Medieval Arab culture, few things that time every person kind of knew they follow, has nothing to do, first of all, with Prophet Muhammad. And second, there were, what is it? Few things they had. They say, supposedly one of the hadiths, this is great medical advice. What is it? 3 things. They're cured in 3 things. Letting blood, cauterization, and what was else? Cauterization, letting blood. There was one more thing, I don't know why I forget. That's it. This is their hadith, curing 3 things. And this one, saliva. It says, narrated Aisha, the Prophet Muhammad used to say to patients, sure, this is a false attribution to Aisha. There are many, many lies attributed to Prophet and his friends, and sometimes they made up even names in the list. It says, in the name of Allah, the earth of our land and the saliva of one of us may cure our patient. Supposedly Prophet Muhammad was curing people with his spit. With spit. And with soil, with dirt thrown in people's face. And there is a comedy too, hilarious hadith in Bukhari. Here it is. And here is the title I put. This is exactly how I hang it to the wall and I gave to the students. And says, narrated Abu Sa'id, Abu Ibni. This Bukhari supposedly is the most meticulous hadith collector. He's inspired by God. He goes for one hadith 1 month. He is so selective or so careful. One of the biggest lies to exaggerate this guy. He's one of the biggest liars, enemies of Prophet Muhammad. And it is indicated in verse chapter 6, 112 and 115, 16. Read those verses about how the enemies of Prophet Muhammad tell each other zukhruf al-qawl, kind of fancy words, and then introduce each other as a wahy, as this is revelation to Prophet. Very interesting. And the following verses are interesting because it rejects the reason. Because when they do this, they say the Quran is not enough, sufficient, is not detailed enough, is not clear enough. The following verses reject these claims. It says the Quran is mufassal, is complete, and do not follow those things. And here it says, Abu Sa'id, a man came to Prophet Muhammad and said, my brother has got to lose motion. Oh, I'm sorry, has got loose motions. This is Qatada, and it says, حدثنا محمد بن بشار حدثنا محمد بن جعفر حدثنا شعبة عن قتادة عن أبي المتوكل عن أبي سعيد قال. The list goes. Someone in translation, they skipped the list because they know it doesn't make sense. The Prophet said, let him drink honey. Good. The Quran says there is cure in honey. But it doesn't say cure for everything. Well, ignorant fabricators of hadith, they know how to exaggerate things, how to make up things, fabricate things. Since there is honey in the Quran, well, honey is cure for everything. For stupidity, drink honey, you become smart. Your cancer, Get honey, it's good. You have diabetes, eat honey. Allah, it's incredible how piece of knowledge can be exaggerated, distorted by ignorant people. One of the examples here. Okay, here it is. The liars, how they attribute this to Prophet Muhammad. This is funny and tragicomic, unfortunately. The Prophet said, let him drink honey. Means this guy has diarrhea, loose motion. The Arabic says, what is it? In akhis tatlaqa batnuhu. Tatlaqa batnuhu. Very good. And let him drink honey. The man again came and said, of course, he goes, tells his brother, drink honey, Prophet told you. So Prophet knows everything. He's the best doctor, the best astronomer, the best things in everywhere. In the exaggerated, distorted hadith books, Prophet Hasha is like God. And then I made him drink honey, but that made him worse. This guy's diarrhea even worse. And what would Prophet say? If you really told him that, maybe he reasoned honey is good, maybe try honey, maybe honey was good for him, possibility. And what he would say, well, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. I'm not God, I'm not doctor, I don't know this. But according to him, what he says, Allah has said the truth, and the abdomen of your brother has told a lie. Here it is, says, فَقَالَ صَدَقَ اللَّهُ وَكَذَّبَ بَطْنَ أَخِيكَ. بَطْنَ أَخِيكَ. Anyway, subhanallah. What a big lie. May goodness say. Tell people, give people some advice, and later that advice doesn't work. In fact, work backward. And then you say, well, you are lying. Someone blind, you say, well, what about putting some acid on your eyes, you will get cured. And the person giving God words, kind of, let's say, bad eyes cannot see well, but see the light. You say, well, what about put some acid there? What about put some honey on it or some dirt on it? What about my saliva? Let me spit on your eyes. Well, after you spit on his eyes, and this person got germs and infection, and he loses whatever he had, limited eyesight altogether, and then you say, well, I said the truth, but your eyes is telling the lie. Shame, shame, shame. And these stupid stories are unfortunately associated to Quran, in fact preferred to the Quran. Quran is distorted, the meaning of the Quran is in fact invalidated many verses of the Quran because of these lies. 230 years, a guy from Bukhara, an idiot and stupid guy Bukhari, is, if these hadiths read it, Muslims do not read these hadith books, those mullahs read and some things they hide. But those who follow hadith, women, you sometimes come to me on internet, you are a woman, Sunni woman. You try to defend Bukhari. Shame on you. Because according to the Bukhari, you are like a dog, like a pig, and like a donkey. That's your level. Many, many other hadiths. Therefore, what are you telling me? Shame on you. You are calling me to accept the book that insults your dignity as a woman, which God created equal to man, that turns you down, put you down like a donkey, like a pig, and then you come tell me I am like a pig, I am like a donkey according to this Bukhari, and this Bukhari is a great guy, we need to follow him. And for men too, shame on you. In the name of Muhammad, you ask me to follow those books that insults him, the greatest, contains the biggest insults to Prophet Muhammad. When I discuss Islam, Quran, with the enemies of Islam, There are some Zionists, some warmongers in the United States who have a lot of ammunition from Muslim worlds, from both their teachings, books, and from their practices. When I discuss with them, when I defend Prophet Muhammad, their number one treasure is Bukhari, Muslim, Nasai, Ibn Hanbal, these books. It is their treasure. They love those hadiths because the biggest insult to Prophet Muhammad. And shame on you that you have the audacity to blame us for not loving Prophet Muhammad. Just the opposite. You are the enemy of Prophet Muhammad if you are Sunni, if you are following this. You are the biggest enemy. In the day of judgment, the Prophet Muhammad would reject you. Ya Rabbi inna qawmi ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura. Like Jesus will reject these Christians who are making big lies in his name and who claim to love him so much. Do you think Jesus will love them? We say you did very well by making up those stupid stories in my name. Or we say I have nothing to do with you. You messed up your eternal life. Okay, here it is. Muhammad died so poor, declining an offer. What is this? Declining an offer. This is in Bukhari. Watch this hadith. Read it. My gosh, this is Babu النظر إلى المرأة قبل التزويج. Before getting married, looking at women. How do you look at women before you get married? According to hadith, you should be able to lift her skirt and look under to her vagina. That's what the Prophet Muhammad has done according. In fact, there is another hadith. It was by Ghazali. It was in his book. I think it was in Ihya. That Umar also look at the women's basically going. They are lined up. They are picking women. And here it is. This is very interesting. I will read the English one. Basically, the Arabic Senate says, حدثنا قتيبة حدثنا يعقوب عن أبي حازم عن سهل بن سعد أن امرأة جاءت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالت يا رسول الله جئت لأهب لك نفسي. I want to give you myself. Okay? Means I want to marry you or you marry me. And then فنظر إليها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. صلى الله عليه وسلم is a makeup praiseworthy. It is distortion of the Quranic statement. I have a video about that. I have written about that. Look at the Quran Reformist translation. Here it is, this one. And it is available on the net too in PDF, also Quranics.org. You can see that. Please look at the translations of the Quran by Sunnis or Shiites. Don't rely on them. There are a lot of distortions about that. And the word sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a fabrication, has nothing to do with Quranic usage of the word. I don't want to digress further, but please pay attention to that one. But this is another fabrication. Anyway, sallallahu alaihi wasallam فصعد النظر إليها وصوبه ثم this is a little bit weak print. I'm sorry. ثم تأتى رأسه فلما رأت المرأة أنه لم يخطف فيها شيئا جلست فقام رجل من أصحابه continuation, where is it? فقال أي رسول الله إن لم تكن لك بها حاجة فزوجنيها فقال هل عندك من شيء فلان. In continuous. Fantastic. Here it is. I don't want to continue. It's a long dress of it. And what it does, a woman comes to Prophet Muhammad, say, have me. And Prophet Muhammad looks at him, at her, and then says no. And then another person says, let me look at the translation. Here it is. Allah Apostle, I have come to you to present myself to you for marriage. Allah Apostle glanced at her. He looked at her carefully and fixed his glance on her and then lowered his head. When the lady saw he did not say anything, she sat down. A man from his companions got up and said, all opposite, if you are not in need of her, then marry her to me. And then continue, okay, here it is, said to me, this is your wife. I removed a piece of cloth from your face, and there you were, said to myself, it was from Allah. Okay, in this one, it is not a looking in the skirt. This is not about hadith, it's just glancing at her. And then another man is interested in the same woman at the same time. But the hadith I am talking about, it is about Umar lifting up the skirt of woman and looking at that. It was in Ghazali's book. And this is about Muhammad died so poor. And incredible commercial hadith about Ajwa. You know, they made up hadith to promote their goods. One of them which Ajwa date. And stoning to death lie, one of the biggest lies. Unfortunately, terrible things. Practice of idol worshippers, according to the Quran, they, in the name of Prophet Muhammad, they fabricated terrible, stupid stories. They brought back, in fact, they fabricated even verses they couldn't put in the Quran. Therefore, they said, well, it was eaten by a hungry goat after Prophet Muhammad. Well, it is out of the Quran, therefore it became mansukh. But still it is valid. This is the story about regime, one of the most stupid stories, and it is in Bukhari and in all other so-called Sahih books. Has nothing to do with the Quran. It insults your intelligence. It insults the dignity of humanity. To justify their intentional lies, they insert a parenthesis intentionally. Basically, there are many hadith says, whoever attribute lies against me, let him prepare himself for hell. Well, they say intentionally. Well, we are not fabricating this lie intentionally, therefore we are okay. Well, first of all, by saying that Quran is not enough, and by kind of going through this garbage of hearsay collections, by the way, whether you have intention or not, good intention, but that intention is based on ignorance and betrayal of the Quran. Here I found it. Well, medicine was in three things. Healing is in three things: a gulp of honey, cupping, and cauterizing. And they have annual conferences, fancy conferences. Big guys go there to discuss this and few others. If fly falls on your food, if it's liquidy, push it in, take it out, fly, and then you will be fine. And they made up even stories about this, how it is scientifically really thing. I can't believe that. And then having sexual intercourse with 9 wives. This is another hadith. I should have a better way to show you this. Anyway, sorry. Okay, you can stop and read it. And drinking camel's urine. This is one of the hadiths. This is in 1990s. I mentioned this. Okay, here it is. Urine qayla. Okay. And then what happened? The head of religious affairs, because this became major news in Turkey, and many Sunnis have no clue about this Bukhari. They talk about Bukhari, they declare me as a heretic because I reject this Bukhari. They have no clue about their own books. And these guys knows how people, they are misleading, they are so ignorant. And they said, no, there is no such a hadith. This is in their major hadith books, Bukhari. Major and well-known hadith. And they deny it without shame. They said, there is no such a hadith. Goodness, this is Bukhari. You consider Bukhari as a second source beside the Quran. Anyway, I challenge them in my Turkish. I say, you are big liars. if there is no such hadith in Bukhari, then I will drink camel's urine. But if it is, and I will show you from your own libraries, we have published these books. I saw with my eyes in Turkish too. And then you, the head of religious affairs, and all those people who signed a press release, you will be drinking camel's urine. But again, this is one of the many, but in fact this is maybe the least harmful. I wish all these religious leaders, Sunni leaders, they drank camel's urine, they die. It will be great help to Muslim population. They are the biggest cause of backwardness troubles that have afflicted the Muslim world for centuries. Okay, next, I hope that I will be sharing with you about how to pray according to the Quran, but I'm going to make it also in Turkish. But before that, I made a YouTube video how to pray according to Hadith and Sunna. Very interesting. You know, each time we say Hadith, these are all contradictions, stupid, silly fabrications, contradict the Quran, contradict the sciences and themselves. Each time they say, how can I pray? How can I pray according to the Quran? How can I observe Salah prayer? Each time. And then, well, then what? Well, it is in Hadith book, they say. Then how can I live Hadith book? I have a beautiful sharing with you about this, praying according to Hadith, and you will be surprised. Thank you very much. Therefore, you should, as Sunnis, to do this Sunnah, follow this Sunnah, they should each drink camel's urine. There is cure in that. They would also should at least once in their life should go hunting lizards, because according to Hadith there is great credit, eternal credit, if you kill these many lizards. There are certain numbers is mentioned. If you kill about 10, you get this many mentions in heavens. Therefore, we should have, as a group, hunting lizards. And killing black dogs is also a great accomplishment. A religious ritual should be. What I'm talking about. It is incredible, the level that I'm talking. Unbelievable that I am forced to talk about this nonsense, because majority of, unfortunately, the Muslim world, even the so-called scholars, smart people who do very well in scientific realm, in other realm, in their work, and they believe in those things, turn this world hell to themselves, to their families, to their wives, to their children, and to their nation. We need, the only thing to save ourselves is, the first thing to save ourselves, reject all those hadith and sectarian books and throw them to the garbage, to the trash pile of the history, and follow the Quran alone through our reasoning. Why Quran? Even question that. Why should you believe the Quran? Why? Why the Quran is word of God? Why not others? What proof evidence you have? If you haven't questioned this one, if you don't have evidence, some extraordinary evidence for that, you are a liar. You are just a blind believer in some stories told by your ancestors. If you were with this mindset in India, you would believe in Bhagavad Gita, you would believe in many stories told by Hindu clergymen. Or if you were in a Christian country, you would believe in that, because the same epistemology. What is your methodology? It means believe. Believe. What's believing? Is euphemism for following the crowdest bandwagon, or the loudest bandwagon, or the closest bandwagon to you. Has nothing to do with the truth. You must question that. If a book is claimed to be word of God, there must be extraordinary evidences for that book to get such a recognition. I'm not saying to be extreme skeptics that say, I will not believe anything except God, That's another extreme. But don't be gullible either. Unfortunately, people who question things in normal life, even statements about themselves, their family, their members, their friends, but they care less about statements about God and prophets. When it is made according to their religion of their childhood or their parents, any stupid story, they can believe in the name of God and messengers. What a disrespect. How can you claim to respect God and messenger if you don't even care about the veracity, authenticity of those stories? You don't care. Oh, you rely on others. How in the world? They tell you all kind of contradictory stories. Anyway, peace be on you, and please take care, and do not let this Zen, the literature of Zen, means hearsay, influence you. Use your God-given reasoning. Peace.